Hi, aviation operations students. This lesson is going to be a little bit different because we're going to talk about manual reading, the importance of it, and then we're going to describe a homework activity that you'll be doing to get you started with the Southwest Airlines Flight Operation Manual. So let's get started with our presentation. So again, reading aviation manuals. Manuals are a key part of the aviation industry, and every portion of the aviation industry has its own manuals, usually multiple manuals. So we have flight operations manuals, ground operation manuals, and many others. So let's jump on in. So I did do some research last year, or 2 years ago, excuse me, and these were the results, some comments from students. So I'll give you a second to read them. So manuals are boring, but we need them in aviation, and the information in there could be life or death, such as emergency procedures. So 2 years ago, I visited Sun Country and Endeavour Regional Airlines and looked at their training programs. And the people in those training programs revealed concerns that new pilots were not able to read manuals. And so this became something that was added to this course since most manuals have to do with some form of operations. Most aviation manuals are still written based on a military or engineering format, and we will look at that a little bit in an exercise next week. So some of the manuals we work with: flight operations, ground operations, international operations, avionics, RSVM, flight attendant, your specific aircraft model, dispatch operations, and many more. So the first thing when we want to read a manual is to understand what is the purpose that we are reading it for. Why is it important? What do I need to learn from this manual? When do I need to first read it by, which often you're handed a manual and so they'll say read the first 200 pages by tomorrow. And when do you need to know it inside and out? For example, are there certain emergency procedures that they will have expect you to memorize? And when will you be asked to do that by? We'll be looking at manuals in addition to this. We've already used by the numbers. We'll be looking at another one called Plain Sense. We'll be looking at aircraft manuals, and I'll describe that as we get into the homework. But the SWA Flight Operations Manual will be the primary manual we'll be working with this semester. So strategies. Some different strategies are collaboration or shared notes. And the important thing there, anytime that you're in a study group, is to know what you're responsible for in the study group. Are you responsible for a particular chapter, for just adding to the base of shared notes? What is your responsibility as part of the team? Effective study groups have everyone in the team contributing. Pre-read, then go back and read for understanding. So when you scan quickly through the manual, what are you looking for? And we will talk about that with some strategies below. And what questions can you ask yourself to guide deeper reading? And we will also do some activities about question asking. Prior knowledge, what do you already know? What do you need to learn from this manual? So 2 techniques we're going to be looking at is scanning, reading quickly through, looking for unfamiliar terms and things you don't know. What am I looking for when I scan quickly through the manual? And skimming, reviewing the organization and outline of the manual and thinking about what you might expect to learn. So when I did my research, using skim and scan together, first skimming, looking at how basically the bones of the document, how is it laid out? What are the chapters? Who's the primary audience? Those are the things that you do first, just to get kind of the broad framework of the book. Then you go back and you scan, looking through the materials to see what kinds of information's in there and what you need to know. So again, these are what you're looking for, the skim and scan technique, which both in students that I was working directly with and interviewing students who were past students, they found this was their preferred technique and the one they also found most useful. There's an expanded version of it called SQ3R, an expanded skim and scan. And I will not be going through this, but that is something that you can use as well. And if you have questions about it, please feel free to contact me. But because the amount of time you're often given to read manuals, this more expanded skim and scan is not going to really apply to what you need to do. However, when you're studying for a test, these are really good techniques to help you use a textbook or manual to prepare you for a test. So your homework is going to walk you through an activity. So I'm asking you to take the Southwest Airlines Flight Operations Manual, which I'm reminding you is proprietary information and not to be shared with other people. Take a general look at the layout of the manual. Look through the table of contents, section 1, introduction. And as I said, just kind of take a look at the layout. You're looking at the bones of the manual. So this is the skim technique for effective manual reading, to review the organization and outline, how the manual is structured, and think about what you might expect to learn from the manual. So once you've completed that, you'll then be answering these questions. What is the purpose of the manual? Who is written for? Who is the primary audience? And others who might read the manual. How is it structured? Also ask yourself, and this is before you're looking at it in depth, what are 3 things I would expect to learn from the manual? And just from a quick scan of the text or the table of contents or the glossary, what are 3 terms that you are not already familiar with? And then 2 additional questions that are not directly related to the reading. We will be looking at other airplane flight manuals, owner manuals, or military -1s. It can be for any FAA approved aircraft. And you must have access to the full manual, because sometimes there'll be, I believe there's a B-1 bomber manual out there, but it's only the first 2 chapters. So you need to make sure that you have access to the full manual. List the document name here. This is the document you will then be using for activities. I believe one of them will start next week. And then finally, as we are working on our list of careers, we've talked about a lot of different jobs and operations in aviation. So what are some of the careers? I'd like you to list 3 careers. These are professional careers in aviation. I would like you to include at least 1 that is not a pilot. And if you list a 4th career, that is extra credit. So the SWA Flight Operations Manual and a Word document with this in it are both attached to the assignment and listed below the week 5 homework for this week's activity. Day 2 will be posted Tuesday, so keep your eye out for it. I'll send you something when the website's been updated, and we will continue on with marketing and an activity that will tie our history timeline to marketing as well. So again, reminding you that you are going to have to identify an airplane or aircraft flight manual. Here's an example of one. And it can be, again, any approved aircraft. You just have to have access to the full manual and make sure that the full manual is there for some activities that will be starting next week. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. I hope you had a great weekend and enjoyed the Super Bowl. And we'll get back to marketing later this week. Bye.